hope we're all working. It looks like we are. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everything in between, welcome back to another race in our Season 2 calendar, in our Season 18 calendar for Tier 2. We're here in Brazil for the Brazilian Grand Prix Tier 2 console Season 18. Got it right this time. And we are going to get prepared for this race. So, this is the track that we have. There's 4.309 kilometers. There's 15 corners. And there's, of course, 3 sectors. With 2 DRS zones pretty much backing onto each other. If you can get those first couple of corners right, those center S's, you could be in for a great run. Especially if you're about 8/10 back, as we found out last night in Tier 3. If you're about 8/10 back, then if you can get turn 1 right, it can ultimately benefit you significantly. But we're certainly going to hope for a race that was as exciting as last night. I was commentating on Tier 3, and we had, well, shall I say it, a photo finish. 2 drivers crossing the line pretty much neck and neck. And the winner, I'm not going to tell you who it was, because you're going to watch the stream replay, hopefully. The winner won by just over a 10th. We're ready to get going tonight for 36 laps around Brazil. With, have we got 20? With 16 of the best drivers, well, in the world of online racing, as it is. But come along with me, because I'm going to try and narrate for you. As you can see just down there, I'm Cockcass, and I will be your commentator for tonight. I'm a lone wolf, as well, nobody else is around, but it offers me the opportunity to get to know some of you just a little bit. And well, we're going to commentate on tonight. Hopefully it's going to be a very exciting race. Always is around Brazil. It's earlier in the calendar than it comes in the real life Formula 1. We've had quite a few, well, season-ending races that are nigh on incredible. We saw 2012, Sebastian Vettel climbing up through the grid and somehow taking victory after being spun round after contact with Bruno Senna, and ending up taking the championship from that point. We saw 2008, Lewis Hamilton through the final braking zone of the lap. Not the final corner, but the final braking zone. He would take victory in the championship, and Felipe Massa at his home, well, in his home city, was champion for all of 13 seconds. We're going to go to the track. We've got some drivers heading out already. Owen is one of the first ones. We've got Daddlepad coming out as well. It's so refreshing seeing, for one of the first times this season, I believe this week is the first week that we've had the privilege of driving with the real cars. We've got a real McLaren, a real Haas, and that's something that we don't get very often, or we haven't had very often on this game this season. We've already got predictions coming in the chat with Tech, who I don't believe is racing tonight. I'm just going to have a look to double check that for you. Being a prediction to win the race. Where am I? Console 2 attendance. But no, I'm looking for him anyway. Doesn't matter, because we've got all of the drivers barring one already out, preparing for their laps. Owen is going to win tonight's race, according to our chat. Disagree with it? Let's get involved. Let's have a conversation about it, because although I know a lot of these drivers, I don't know them very well. And I'm sure we'll get to know them throughout the course of tonight. I've done Tier 3 for the last 3 weeks. I've done Tier 4 before. I am going to be the regular Tier 5 commentator once we're back to normal scheduling. And so tonight is an honour for me to be commentating for you. But at the moment, we have the championship leader in the Aston Martin NLR Spicer As previously mentioned, he is our championship leader. We only have one of our Saubers racing tonight because Tech is not... Well, Tech is not here. We've got... we've got a lot of quick drivers. I'm expecting a very, very close grid. And we've got our first driver, that's Blunty, who's coming up to start his lap. Bobbitt's teammate Schumacher will be the first one to set a valid lap. Last night, just under an 07 was enough. This already almost beating the pole time, a 106.8. Epic Vale going into the 107s. Owen coming across the line with a 107.1. So that is a strong banker lap from Schumacher. Harvey coming across the line with a 107.2. Spicer, your championship leader, 5/10 down. And his teammate jumping up, the second driver in the 106s with a 106.914. As all of the drivers come across the line to set their first runs, Flo is going to be the next one. It's a 107.3. Blunty's invalidated. Who was that? Vazquez jumping up into P3. Otto into P5. Simbarox is going to come across the line to start probably what's going to be his second run. Alpha Gully will most likely be the same. Into the pits comes Blunty. He's not going to set his first lap. Bobbitt's across the line. It's not going to be a competitive time or a representative time of his real pace. A 118.8. Simbarox, purple first sector, but they can be deceiving. We've had a number of times this year drivers setting purple sector times that haven't actually been. So we're just going to have to see as Simbarox heads through. It's sort of the second S section he invalidates on the entry to it. I'm just waiting for somebody to go out on their lap properly. It's going to be Fern who's going to be the next one to start his next lap. His first lap because he hasn't set a time yet. At the moment, Schumacher setting the pace, a 106.898 daddle pad. Under, well, around 200ths behind. And Vazquez just 3 thousandths behind Daddlepad and just 3 thousandths off the front row. This game, this year, we've seen a lot of track evolution, so I think those times are going to come even further down, and we're going to be towards the end of the race, dipping into the 10, maybe even the 105s. That would be a push, but you never know, because these are 16 of the top 40 drivers in WOR Gully, demonstrating that as he goes in to P5. But I'm going to narrate a lap around Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. So it's turn 1 and 2, sort of interconnected. They're called the Senna S's. And then you come out trying to ride the curb as much as possible. He's clinging to it as he heads down to the first real straight of this lap. The DRS is open. And he's going to brake again using the curbing into Descida de Largo. And on the exit, there is going to be a Haas ahead of him, which could put him off, especially considering they're weaving. But hopefully that's not going to be much of a distraction because we are ghosting. And as a result, we're going to have a lobby restart at the end of this session because of the dramatic effects that Slipstream gives you in this race. It does encourage greater racing as that Haas gets out of the way pretty well. And Fern clings onto the inside, clings onto the curbing once again. The final braking zone. You sort of need to lock up in through there. You don't need that, though. Snap on the exit of Oversteer for Fern. And that really costs you at this high level. And he's going to come across the line. It looked like a strong lap time. It's going to be a 107.2, which although it's only about 3/10 off Schumacher on pole position, it's down in 9th. Blunty's invalidated his second run. He's really struggling so far early on. Track limits are an issue around this track because a lot of the corners, especially through the S's, that we're going to watch Schumacher head through. Now, it's very difficult to find the balance between... Well, it's very difficult to find the balance between getting the speed. You need the minimum speed up as much as you can. And, well, keeping it in a straight line, which I certainly struggle with. But these drivers, they're a lot more qualified than me. Because let me tell you, I looked at the time trial laps of some of the drivers. I'm not even making it into tier 9. And this is up in tier 2. Schumacher will be coming around most likely for another run. But we've got 10 minutes left in the session. And there's still a lot of time to be found for a lot of these drivers. As Alpha Gully comes out of the pits, he's going to set another lap. Otto's improving on his previous run. And this is where time can really be gained or lost. You can set yourself up for the straights as much as you want. But these corners are really where you're going to get that edge. As long as you've got the right setup on. Who was that jumping up? I think that might have been Spicer jumping up into 5th place. Otto. He is improving. But by how much as he comes up to the second split time? He's looking to be the 5th driver within the 1:16. Spicer and Gully have run them close. Vasquez drops a 1:06.8. And Daddlepad goes even faster at 1:06.8 as well. Otto can only manage a 1:07.0. But Daddlepad taking provisional pole position after his second lot of runs. And a lot of these drivers are actually finding a lot of time in this lap. You've got Bobbitts, who's going to come up to the line. He's 5/10 down. So it's unlikely that he's going to find any time. Lucas is minimally down on his time. So he's not improving so far. That was an example of how close you have to get to find those tiny, tiny improvements. And this track is certainly one of the biggest in terms of times that you can gain and lose all at once. Because one corner could cost you a lap, especially in this league. 3,000ths is what PGR Lucas is up. And a big wobble out of the final corner, but he's able to recover it. But I don't think there's going to be 5/10 worth of time, and neither does Lucas, who comes into the pits. And he's going to prepare for his next run. It's not been a great start so far for Flo or Lucas, the two Williams drivers. But it has been, certainly, for the Aston Martins. Daddlepad and Spicer. 1st and 7th, yes. So not as close as you might think. But only 2/10 between them. And this, well, this could be incredible. Blunty does set his first representative time. But it's last of all the representative times, a 1:07.5. That's Fern coming across. He will be setting it up. He's sort of out of sync with everybody. But he's probably going to wait. He's going to do this lap, see what he can do. And then he's going to wait and try and head out for the final runs. Because as I mentioned earlier, the track evolution, especially around this track, is utterly ridiculous. So you could see times dropping to the low 1:06s. Fern improved on his first sector, but then ran wide and invalidated his lap through to Cedar de Largo. And he will not be improving. Owen also invalidates. Gully has also invalidated. So all three of the drivers that could be on their runs at the moment, or on their in-laps, one of the two, they have all invalidated their laps. Gully is going to come into the pit, so that probably was his in-lap. But all of the drivers look like they're going to try and go for 4 runs, which is an interesting call. That could eat up some of their tyres. We'll have a look at the tyres at the moment to see if anybody is going on to worn sets. They're not. So everybody is using brand new sets of soft compound tyres. They're gambling on the fact that the race is going to be a simple one-stopper of a medium and a hard, which generally is the way around here. This track does seem to eat up soft tyres quite easily. But we are going to have to wait, and we're going to have to wait and see. As with many things in motorsports, nothing is decided until really the checkered flag comes out. And we're 6 minutes and 30 seconds away from that on this qualifying session. We've got one driver of Gully in the pits. Everybody else is out on a lap. And Daddlepad, he is the driver on provisional pole at the moment. He's looking to improve, to build that gap, because at the moment it's only 400ths ahead of Vasquez, and he's gained another 200ths from somewhere in that first sector. Just a little bit of that rear end wobble, but that's what you have to do realistically in order to gain any time through the Cedar de Largo. You just have to let the rear step out. You can't be comfortable. Epic Vale jumping up to the 106.6s. So the Haas is demonstrating supreme pace so far. That's his second lap within the 106s that he's set. And that is an incredibly strong time that it's going to be very difficult to beat. Daddlepad is a 10th up. He's still not beating Vale, but coming round the final corner, heading down through the last couple of half corners. But this is where he keeps the power down. This is the moment. Is he going to be able to beat Vale? Is it going to be? Not quite. He's just 0.8 off as Vazked goes even faster at 106.6. Schumacher, the driver in 4th, has nothing to compete with those ahead at the moment. Lucas is going to come across the line next and improve up to P12. Predestinato, there we go, got there in the end. He moved up to P10. Not many of the drivers are improving, but watching on board with Alpha Gully, he's improved by a 10th in that first sector. And a 10th is all you need. When you're in the 106s, you've clearly set an incredibly competitive time, and it is those minimal gains. Rocking the Zhou Guan Yu helmet as well, the very, very pretty China helmet of the driver for Sauber. But Gully, he's looking to do a little bit better than Joe has this year. Pick up a decent haul of points, maybe even could be looking at a podium in this qualifying session. He's up. It's purple. 0.2 is what he's improving by. Another 10th, or another maybe just under a 10th, and this could be provisional pole. It's an incredibly strong lap regardless, and Gully is going to come up to the line, and it's going to be a 106.7. That's 4th place for the Seoul Sauber in this race. Flow improves. Simba Rocks is going to improve. He's up into P6. The 6th driver into the 106s, and what a lap that was. Blunty's improving. Roberts we can't quite see yet, but Blunty with a purple second sector, maybe again. Can't 100% trust that sector, but he's up by 0.2. That would put him provisionally only in P13. Can he find that time down this straight? Yes, he can. But it's still enough for P12. He's only, right, let's get this, only 0.2 of being solidly P6. So the times for these drivers are insane. They're all so close together, and they're all preparing now for their final runs. It's a tense moment for World Online Racing Console Tier 2. It is a tense moment. Who's taking pole position? Chat, let me know. I think Daddlepad has more in his lap. He's come out now. Yano's not racing because he races in PC Tier 1. This is Console Tier 2. But Daddlepad is, I think, my prediction for pole position. We'll have to wait and see. Epic Vale is going to come across the line to start his lap. Flo is the first driver invalidating or retiring from the session. He will not be improving on a 107.135. Epic Vale, he's got a dominant time. But I think he's going to want to find just that little bit more in his lap. And he's found a little bit more. He's up by 0.068 seconds, which is not much if you're counting it on a stopwatch, but it's an incredible amount because that would drop him into the 106.5s. If he continues on this trajectory, he could even dip into the 106.4s, which would almost guarantee him pole position. We are going to have to wait and see for his second sector split time because it's a long wait through those straights. He's going to come out. What sort of time? It's an improvement once again. Just a 1/10.5 more. Or sorry, a 100th.5 more. And he's going to come now onto the straight, opening up the DRS. Across the line, it's Epic Vale. And it's not an improvement. He does not improve on his time. I've switched to the wrong driver. That was Lucas, who improves, but not enough to climb up from that P14 spot that he occupies at the moment. That's going to be Bobbitt's coming across the line to start his time. Fern retires from the session. That's Spicer, who's going to come across the line for his lap. It's an improvement, a 106.8. But it's only enough for P6 right now. Who's next across the line? It's going to be the Alpine of Harvey, that was, who's going to start what's going to be his final run. Gully's going to start what's going to be his final run. And that was Daddlepad across the line. A lot of these drivers have gone for double lap runs, which means their first lap is just sort of a banker. If they improve on it, then yeah, that's fine, that's good. But then they're going to go for another push lap. And it's very difficult to find a way of making the double run work. A lot of these drivers will have been waiting, conserving their tyres for this final lap. But I think we're going to see the times tumble. A lot of the drivers are now into the pits. Their sessions are over, as that is Schumacher's session over, Blunty's session over, and Epic Vale as well. Harvey has invalidated his lap. He's not going to be improving. Otto is currently just about not improving on his time. Who's that as well? That's going to be Alpha Gully. It looks like it's actually a little bit wet. So maybe they won't be improving as much as I predicted them to be. Gully up to the line. He doesn't improve. So I think it is a little bit wet. These times could be representative as Spicer comes into the pits. Harvey retires from the session. Predestinato, I will get that right at some point in this race. Predestinato is going to set his time. Is it an improvement? No, it's not. So it does appear over the last half a lap or so that the rain has come out. So the drivers will not be improving. This is their final run, their final time. And Epic Vale will be the man on pole position for your console tier 2 Brazilian race. So the prediction in the chat was right. Vale easy pole position. I was incorrect with my prediction for Dazzlepad, but you can see that it is raining just a little bit, which did put pay to a lot of the drivers' final runs. So I'm not too disappointed with my prediction. I think that might be a little bit of delusion for me not being too disappointed, but hey, nonetheless, not sure what that noise was. That's Blunty, who's unmuted his mic. Blunty, if you are in the stream, you're unmuted. But Epic Vale takes pole position ahead of Vazked in second. Daddlepad in third. Alpha Gully in fourth. After looking slower early on, he gained pace and he was just over a tenth behind Epic Vale. Then it was Schumacher, Spicer, Simba Rocks, Otto, Harvey, Owen rounding out the top 10. Then it was Predestinato, Blunty, Flo, Bobberts, Lucas and Fern. But Fern's time is still a 107.2. That's still an incredible lap. I would be over the moon with that lap. Unfortunately for those drivers, with how close this league is, it's not going to be quite the same. And the rain that came in qualifying is continuing throughout the race. Is it going to be wet conditions? They are full wet, so I don't know if we're going to continue with this because we are going to get back into the lobby. And I'm going to switch back to my camera. You get to see my beautiful face as we get the 5 lights going for the race. It's always entertaining from my perspective, watching all the drivers just try and crash out as soon as possible so we can get lobby restart. But there we go. We've got 38 people in the live chat. Who are your predictions for this race? I asked you poll just a couple of minutes ago and Arctic Air was correct. With his prediction of Vale, I was incorrect with my prediction of Daddlepad. But now, I know that it's difficult to predict. That was a Visa Cash App RB upside down. Anyway, I know it's difficult to predict at this point with all the drivers being so close together. A prediction for Owen in the race, that's not too far off, I don't think. I think it could be Owen taking victory. It could be any of them taking victory. But Vale in a good position. He'll just need to try and convert it Vazquez, he's gonna want to pressure him on the start line. He had a good first run and a good second run. It was rare for a lot of the drivers to have that sort of time, but he was able to go quick on his first run, go quick on his second run. The third run, not quite so quick, but that was mainly due to the fact that it began raining at the end of the session. I'm going to send us to an intermission now, as the lobby is about to restart, but stay right where you are, because we've got some action lined up for us tonight. to go. We're getting ready to. Sorry, it didn't come up. We're getting ready to go again and go for our 36 laps around the Brazilian Grand Prix. So let me give you a reminder of the track. So 15 corners, 4.309 miles. It was opened on the 12th of May 1940. Has been on the Formula One calendar in this rendition since 1999. I've mentioned earlier the dramatic races in 2008 and 2012. The likelihood is that we're getting a race this dramatic here, as we got last night in Tier 3. We've got two drivers who picked up their only pole position here. And they happen to be, actually, now that I think about it, on the same team as Epic Vale. So he joins a list of Haas drivers who've taken pole position here. The strategy realistically is going to be a one-stopper unless anything is dramatically different. With people looking to go aggressive maybe on the soft compound. And then switching. Softs, mediums can last. Mediums, hards is a lot more of a safe bet. We've got 16 drivers here tonight. I believe all 16 are in the lobby. Oh, we've got 17 now. We've got Tech, who's going to start from the rear of the grid. He joined us late, but he's looking to make an impression. One of our championship leaders, he is. He's in second place. First and second in the last two races. And points in all three have put him in good standing. Daddlepad, though, is the one in the top three who's got the best chance of winning. Epic Vale is in fourth in the standings. And Schumacher in fifth. So realistically, the championship doesn't really matter because all these drivers are close together on this grid. We're just waiting to get going, waiting for those 5 red lights to come on and then go out once again for our 36 laps around the Brazilian Grand Prix. Interesting to look at strategy at this point. Everybody, barring Fern, who starts in P16, is on either the medium or the hard compound tyre. So it could be a case of everybody looking to manage through the conditions. But we're going to go to the 5 lights for the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's lights. And it's action. We're away for our race in Brazil. Epic Vale gets a wonderful start. He's heading into the lead. Vazquez looked down the inside momentarily. He takes P2. Gully and Daddlepad switching positions as they head out now of the S's. And Gully has lost out in those places. He's down behind Schumacher. He could be down behind Spicer as well. Schumacher looking racy. He looks to get past Daddlepad. And he does. So Schumacher jumps back up into P3. Gully recovers into P4. Daddlepad drops to P5. It's side by side between the Mercedes and the Alpine here. Blunty and Harvey going hammer and tongs. And it looks like Blunty has come out on top. And it's the two Alpines side by side now. Harvey and Predestinato. Predestinato has the inside line. Harvey has the outside. You want the outside around this corner most of the time. But on lap 1, maybe not. Because the conditions are slightly different. He's going to try and cling onto it. And it looks like Predestinato has the outside line once again. He had the position. But Harvey, with that insane switchback, looks to take P11 or P10. So Vale leads on the first lap. 8/10 ahead of Vazquez already. Looking further back, that's both the Alpines again side by side. Lucas sneaks through into P10. And it's a swap up ahead as Gully heads up into P3. Schumacher must have had a poor first couple of corners because he's getting pressured by Daddlepad, who's going to try and take that gap around the outside. Late braking is going to be on Daddlepad's side because he's got the softer tyres and he's around the outside. Still, he's clinging onto it, but still Schumacher's giving him fight back. They're going to head into the S's side by side. Schumacher trying to squeeze him, but goes out off the track. Still trying to hold on there, but eventually he had to yield and he could fall behind even Owen, who gives him a little tap, looks to the inside. Schumacher defends the inside. So that would have been a ridiculous move if Owen went for it there, but he's still going to try to cling on in there. looking to the inside through the final braking zone, but Schumacher just holds on to it. But he's out of the DRS range. You get DRS on the second lap of this race this year. And so Schumacher, who's already out of that DRS range, is going to struggle down the straight. He's going to get swarmed. Owen's through. Spizer's through. It's side by side into turn one between Spicer and Owen. And Spicer hangs on. Lucas now is looking to attack Schumacher. Blunty's looking to attack Schumacher. And there's contact. Both of them have retired from the session. And we've got a virtual safety car. It just looked like Blunty didn't want to yield. And Lucas didn't want to give him any space. And they both lost their right front tyre. Those are our first two retirements from the Grand Prix. We're going to show the tyres that all the drivers are on now. Schumacher, it explains his poor start that he's on the hards. Simba Rocks is also on the same tyre. Harvey, Flo, Brutal, Bobberts and Fern. Oh no, Fern's on the mediums, but the rest of them are on the hard compound tyres. So that one's fighting from the back, apart from Fern. Look like they're going to try to go long in this stint, hope for a safety car. That was surprisingly only a virtual safety car, as Lucas and Blunty did actually manage to crash off the track rather than on it. But Epic Vale has already built up a gap of 1.1 seconds, almost up to 1.3 seconds. It's fluctuating because of the struggles with the safety car delta time. But he has had a supreme start to this race. And we're going to look to get going very soon, as Vazquez has a big wobble as the safety car comes back in. It was an awful time for the RB to make a mistake, and Gully looks to try and latch on it around the outside. DRS is going to be available for the Sauber, and he takes P2. So a switch for second place. Alpha Gully, who didn't get the greatest of starts, fighting back. It awoke something in him. And he's up into P2 and even in the DRS range of Vale now. And that's the benefit of having that DRS, because not only are you able to pass the car behind, you are going to be automatically quicker than, well, whoever's in front of you if they don't have DRS, and Vale did not have that privilege. Vazquez falling further back now, 6/10 behind Gully, but he is going to have DRS. Daddlepad is going to try and cling onto the rear of him, although Spicer behind is going to provide an issue for Daddlepad, because he's going to want to give him the DRS. He's 9/10 down, but he's also going to want to try and fight forward, because Spicer could fall behind Owen. This could be a team game, or they could play it individually, and it looks like Daddlepad is going to try and play this individually at this point in the race. Teamwork isn't a necessity at this point in the race, but it's always nice to do. Tech to the inside, but Flo swings it around the outside. Otto gets past as well, and Tech gets a 3-second time penalty. Also looks down the inside of Flo as well, and he takes that position. He's up into P11. That Red Bull just looking a little bit racy, needing to get past those hard compound tyres runners as soon as he possibly can, and he's done so with ease. He could do it with ease again if Harvey drops out of the DRS of Predestinato, as he has on a couple of occasions on this lap. It's going to be quite close. Spicer is the only driver, apart from Fern now, to be out of the DRS range. And he's he's in and out of it. But they're all incredibly close, considering this is lap 5. They're all incredibly close, considering Epic Vale, just a lap ago, had 1.3 seconds on Vazquez in second place. Alpha Gully takes the fastest lap of the race and takes P1 for good measure. He's into the lead. Vale is going to have DRS, and he has an incredible run, looking to fight back. The outside line is his. Gully, I think, is just going to yield. Vazquez is going to try to get involved, but he's just not got that straight line speed. That would be enough for him to topple the top two. Spicer must have had an issue somewhere, because he's dropped 8/10 to Daddlepad. So I'm not 100% sure what's happened there. But the two teammates are the only two, really, that are split, apart from Fern, who, well, I don't really know why he's dropped so far down. But, well, at the end of the day, he has. And it's just, that's interesting that he has dropped so far down. And it will be something to keep an eye on, because he could just be hurting from the fact that he doesn't have the DRS. Although everybody else, barring Spicer, does. Spicer's picked up 5/10 on this last lap on Daddlepad, looking to close in even more. But Gully retakes the lead of this race. Vale looks to defend from Vazked quite aggressively, but Vazked is going to try to go down the inside of both of them, backing out on that move on Gully. But he does get past Epic Vale, and he's up into P2. He could make this a double move. I said right at the top of the broadcast that this double dose could be crucial. Just getting that out of the first, clinging into it in the second, and Vazqued just wasn't quite close enough. And he's got Epic Vale on his rear, who's going to want to fight back as soon as he possibly can. Looking to the inside, Vazqued covers it off. But they're looking racy, but they're both NLR drivers, Vale and Daddlepad. So is Spicer, who's dropped a position to Owen. So something is happening to Spicer. Maybe he's just not on the pace this weekend, but he just seems to have very irregular lap times. And that will be something to watch heading through the race. Down to the main straight for the 7th time now. Gully is in the lead. This top 4 group is beginning to form. And these were the 4 that had the pace in qualifying. So it's unsurprising that they have the pace in the race. The only one that I'd argue is Schumacher, who has dropped down. He's got past Spicer as Vazqued takes the lead of the race. And Daddlepad looks to take P3 off of Vale. But Vale defending his line as much as he can. And therefore, he will stay ahead in P3. We've got support for Vazqued in the chat. We've got quite a bit of support, actually, for Vazqued in the chat. So he seems to be a fan favourite. But he's out of ERS. That rear light is flashing, which means he is low on it. And this could be the opportunity that Gully's been waiting for. He's going to sit behind, get prepared as Vazqued just burns through as much as he can. And then Gully will pounce. The next couple of laps as well will be absolutely crucial for the McLaren of Schumacher. Because the mediums will most likely drop off around lap, if I'm being generous, lap 13. So the next 5 laps or so, Schumacher will start to see, yes, he's going to be behind for now. He's going to be down on his time for now. But if he can cling to Owen, if Owen can not drop too much time, as that is Predestinato looking down the inside of Spicer, backing out of the move. If Schumacher can stay with Owen, because Owen's not dropping too much time, he's 2.6 seconds behind. He's actually going to pass Owen with the DRS down the straight. But if he doesn't drop too much time to the top group, he could be a danger that they haven't even thought about yet, because those top 4 are very close together. There's pretty much half a second to split the 4, as there's actually their contact between Vale and Vazqued, although that may have just been netcode. Schumacher is actually gaining on this top group as they sort of trip over each other. And this will play into the McLaren's hands. They haven't thought about him yet, because he did drop off the start. He lost, or he's actually stayed where he was, but he did lose a number of positions. He's done well to gain back up. Owen's going to give him more of a fight than he's going to hope for with DRS down the main straight. He's going to pull to the inside line. Although he could be actually playing this smart. Owen could be playing this incredibly smart. I thought he was going to go for a send, but I think he sees the benefit in those 3 working together. Schumacher, Owen and Spicer, with Simbarox, who will come into it in the next couple of laps. Nobody else seems to have that pace of those 3. I'm sure they will develop in time as it's side by side between Predestinato and Otto as they head up into the S's. The S's is a dangerous place to go side by side, especially when it's 2 by 2. And it's looking for the outside line for Otto, just running off of the track. Hopefully he's not going to gain an advantage off that, but he is going to gain the position of Predestinato. Boberts and Harvey backed out, but it could be 3 wide as Tech looks down the inside of Harvey. Flo is backing out of it. And Tech seals P12. We know he's quick. We know the Sauber is quick. It's just a case of whether he can continue to fight his way up the grid. He does have that 3-second time penalty, which, while it doesn't affect him now, is likely to affect him later. So it's all changed actually up the top as Vazked is to the inside. Vale is losing positions. Lost another one to Gully. He's looking to fight back, but Daddlepad is also looking to get involved. It's like Noah's Ark. It's 2x2. And Gully and Daddlepad sneak through because Vazked didn't have DRS and Vale was boxed in by the RB. It's still side by side as they head up the hill. Daddlepad and Gully, but Gully yields. Daddlepad takes the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix on lap 11. But these four are just going to keep trading, hopefully not tripping over each other too much, because the McLaren of Schumacher is 1.5 seconds behind. He was 2.5 seconds behind just a sector ago. So that time that they're taking to fight each other is not going to benefit them, because Spicer and Owen are still, and Simba Rocks are still clinging to Schumacher, and Schumacher is closing the gap. These drivers, the battle is not over. It's not just going to be these four. As Vale looks to the inside, Gully is going to go around the outside of Daddlepad. It looked for a second that he was opening the door for Vale to go through. Vazked looking to fight back. Gully boxing in Vale again. It's about Vale's positioning, where he can go on the exit of the S's. Because this is the second lap now where he seems to have struggled with his positioning, getting boxed in behind somebody as he dives to the inside of Gully. Off the track goes the Sauber. And that was an interesting incident. I think he was just trying to avoid contact, because at this point, when you are in the lead of this race, you want to avoid contact. When you are in this lead group, it's just about sticking with them. And I think that's where the running wide has come from, because he wanted to avoid contact by all means necessary. But what it has done, that little squabble around the Cida de Largo, is Schumacher is back in the DRS. Spicer's behind him. Owen's behind him. Simba Rocks is behind him. So what was a group of just 4 drivers has just doubled in size. Simba Rocks is the back of the leading pack now, with Bobberts 2 seconds behind. So it's not like any sort of battle is out of the question. Daddlepad is in the lead of this race, but Vazked looks to change that. He looks to the inside. He Ghosts and Vale heads back through. So that could have been that Vazked just went in over his means, braked significantly too late. He's going to look to the inside again of Vale, backing out. Schumacher really wants to get in on this battle now, and I said these tyres could last about 13 laps, 15 at a push. This is Schumacher's time to shine. It's worked perfectly for those hard runners in this lead group now that have just been added to this lead group. And Schumacher, he's matching the times of some of the leaders. He's going quicker than the times of the others. And this could be his opportunity. Somebody is likely to dive into the pits at the end of this lap. They're going to try and do 23 laps on those hard compound tyres, which is, it'll be difficult, but with the way those mediums are going and with the way they're likely to continue to go, well, they're going to struggle. They are going to stay out this lap. All but 2. Vazked does pit. So does Owen. And is it going to be for the hard compound tyres for the RB? He's in for hards. It is indeed hard compound tyres, and he comes out just ahead of Owen. It's a swap for the lead of the race. The 2 NLR drivers switching positions. Daddlepad taking the lead ahead of Vale. But Vazked pulling the trigger. We know how strong the undercut can be on F1 24. And he could just be here demonstrating, or hoping to demonstrate, that that is exactly the case. Also, it's become overcast in the last couple of laps. So, while this race is not over, in terms of the strategic calls, we could be seeing rain on the horizon. You don't generally get an overcast race change unless it is going to rain. And that could be what some of these drivers are hoping for. And it would play even better into the strategy of Schumacher and Spicer. They're tempting each other into the pits. And they've tempted Gully in. He comes in, doing well actually to avoid the 10-second time penalty. Where is he going to come out in relation to Vazked? It's a long pit straight. It's one of the longest pit lanes on the calendar, if not the longest if you include the exit, which obviously you can go full speed in, but drivers tend to be a little bit tetchy, especially through these first couple of corners. He comes out. You can see on your screens, on board with Vazquez. Where is the Sauber going to be? It's going to be Gully jumping Vazquez, but on the exit, it looks like Vazquez just had the momentum, and he takes P12 off of Gully. Owen staying in it. And these three, if they work together right, if they challenge each other perfectly and just don't lose much time, those three could be the top three. We'll see if Daddlepad and Epic Vale come in this lap. It's likely that Schumacher's going to continue. Daddlepad tempts another driver in, this time it's that of Epic Vale, the Haas driver. He was on pole position. A little bit of scrapping went on, which means that he's dropping down. He dropped down to a low of P4, getting up, well, up in and around P2 was where he stabilised. He's in the pits. He's going to come out, and he's going to come out behind Vazquez and Gully, depending on his exit. How ballsy was he through the couple of corners? As it turns out, not ballsy enough. He loses the positions to Vazquez and Gully. He's side by side with Owen. Owen around the outside, taking P11. And what is next? P3. So Gully leads this little group. He leads this secondary group in the race. In the meantime, I didn't even catch it, but Schumacher made it past Daddlepad and into P1. So it's the lead of the race for the McLaren. Daddlepad and Spicer, surely one of them is going to come into the pits this lap. No, they're not. They're going long on those medium compound tyres. Could this be a case of miscommunication? Because we know who they're going to come into the pits alongside this, well, this race. And Daddlepad and Spicer won't want to come in at the same time. They won't want to double stack. Could there be rain on the horizon? The drivers who have boxed don't think so. Epic Vale and Owen are fighting. Vale getting past Owen now. He's up into P11, and that's just sort of the racing order that it has been so far. Those three have been quicker than Owen so far in this race. It looks set to continue, but he is going to try and cling on, is the Mercedes, as that is a driver around. It looks like it might be the Alpine of Harvey, who has spun round on those hard compound tyres, maintaining P8, but opening up an opportunity for Alpha Gully to get a dose of DRS to stop this group behind him fighting, and to ultimately put not a stake in the heart of Daddlepad and Spicer. Daddlepad is the out Aston Martin. As I predicted, one of them is going to come into the pits. It was that of Daddlepad. He's in. It's surely going to be for the hards. Yes, it is. So he's in. Spicer's likely to pit next lap. But why would you pit if you're getting the benefits of DRS? As he indeed is. As that is Harvey retiring from the session. He decided after that spin that that was his day done. And he is in. Daddlepad is out behind that group ahead of him. But his hards are new. So he's probably going to lose time in the next lap or so. But then towards the end of the race, as the rest of them stretch their tyres, he is going to be strong or stronger as long as he can manage them. But he's not looking like he's going to try and do any sort of management on this lap. He's looking like he's trying to set as fast of an outlap as he possibly can and trying to close into the DRS of Owen. I've mentioned earlier, and I'll say it time and time again, DRS is probably the most powerful tool you can get for the Brazilian Grand Prix, and this will just be another example. Spicer is likely to come out of the pits behind this group, behind even Daddlepad. Epic Vale looks to the outside, switches to the inside line as Vazquez stays ahead of Gully. Vale gets ahead of Gully, and Owen passes Daddlepad up into P9. Oh no, he was already ahead of Daddlepad. He passes Spicer, who drops to P11. Could even be in P12. but it looks like he's got a sizable gap to Otto of just under a second. He's got 2.3 seconds to gain on Daddlepad. So the Aston Martins going long, whether it's the right strategy or not, is another thing that they're going to have to contend with. But at the moment, Daddlepad and Spicer not looking in great positions. Daddlepad closing in, though. He is going to be within the DRS of Owen in the next couple of laps if these drivers ahead stay within the fight with each other. And now they're all just waiting for Schumacher, but they won't have to wait long. Schumacher picks up a 10-second time penalty. And the man who looked in such a good position this race has just cost it 10 seconds worth of penalties for the McLaren. And that could be crucial. You can see on your screens, that's the leading pack going past. Schumacher is going to be quicker than them because of those medium compound tyres. But that 10-second time penalty is going to be held over his head. And he will be devastated. He could even be behind Spicer as they come out the pits. He is going to be ahead, actually, of the Aston Martin. But 10 seconds worth of penalties. That's devastating. Owen gets past Vasquez now. So I did talk a couple of laps ago about the fact that he didn't quite have the pace of everybody else. He's turning it up here. He's turning it on. And P7 is his. And that is provisionally, if everybody else was to come into the pits, P3 for the time being, just so you can keep up with the way that this race is going at the moment. Now, Simba Rocks, he's going to be very careful to avoid that 10-second time penalty. And that's unsurprising because now he is the best driver in a best position. On those hards, Bobbett's not too far behind, Flo a couple of seconds off. But Simba Rocks is going to come out of the pit lane. They're all going to come flying past. But Simba Rocks and Bobbett's have played this so well. They've avoided a penalty. I would have said Schumacher played it well. But 10 seconds is what that mistake cost him. Simba Rocks comes out behind Otto and behind Spicer. But DRS will most likely be his friend as he heads out of turn 13 and onto the main straight. As long as he can keep it in there. The mediums are easier to fire up than the hards. So he's going to have less of a problem than Daddlepad had. Daddlepad, though, he is in it. Those hards have fired up and he is ready. He is by himself fired up and ready to fight for this P5, this P4, this P3. But Vale and Gully have built up the gap to over a second to Vasquez. And at the moment, they are the ones looking in the best position. Tech Brutal comes into the pits. He's going to be nowhere in this battle for the lead. But his teammate is going to take the lead. Gully ahead of Vale. Then a sizable gap back to Daddlepad, and it's side by side between Vasquez and Owen. Vasquez holding on to the position, but he must have lost out to Daddlepad heading down the back straight. And Owen is looking to pile on the misery to the RB's lap. Down the inside into Desida de Lago. On the exit of it, they're still side by side, wheel to wheel. And Vasquez with the inside line looking to cling on. There's contact. And Vasquez does well not to spin round. But he holds on to the position ahead of Owen. P4 is his. Continuing for the time being. But out of DRS now of Daddlepad, who is almost back into it on the top two. Sector 2 is where you have to gain all of your time if you want to climb into the DRS. And it looks like Daddlepad has been unsuccessful. Vasquez has been unsuccessful. Owen has been successful, but he's got a driver with faster tyres in behind him. And Schumacher is going to take P5. He's going to try to take P4 to the inside of Vasquez. And the fastest lap of the Grand Prix for good measure. So he's up into P4 is Schumacher. Gully took the lead of the race off of Epic Vale on that last lap. Vale's going to look to snatch it back, but he's going to be unsuccessful. Just looking at Simba Rocks, he got past Spicer. Bobbett's is a couple of seconds off. So Simba Rocks, of the medium runners, is in an incredible position. Probably the best position of any of those. If he can bridge, that is, that 2-second gap to Vasquez. Schumacher, at the moment, is looking like the fastest man on track. But let me remind you, 10 seconds worth of penalties are coming his way, either in a pit stop or in a post-race application for speeding in the pit lane. And so, although he is incredibly quick, the race win, unless a safety car comes out or something along those lines to even it out, to allow him to serve that penalty and come out in a decent position, he will be ruining that. But that's the only opportunity he's going to have to get back into this race. Daddlepad has fought his way into Vale and Gully's rear wings. And although he's likely to sit behind, he did do a lot of sitting behind in that first stint. Although he's still likely to continue to try and do that, it's not going to be too far off. And this point in the race, that is the time you want to do that. You want to save yourself for the final 5 odd laps, because that will be where they all fight. That's where all the action happens with all the drivers that are so close, because the desperation levels rise, and that's what they're going to look to take advantage of. It's 3 different teams in the top 3. The first teammate actually is Spicer down in P8. So nobody's working together in these top couple of groups. Simbarox has closed in by 0.8 on Vazked on that last lap. Those hards are only going to get older. And those mediums, they've still got about 10 laps of operating window in them. Gully retakes the lead of this race off of Vale. And as I said, Daddlepad just waiting there, just biding his time. Brutal takes the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as he climbs up into P10. Bobberts is giving him a good run, though, for his money. And around the outside, Brutal still tries to hang it. Bobberts onto fully the curbing. And that allows him to stay ahead. But there's switches up ahead. Simbarox gets past Spicer. Vazked and Owen were fighting. Vazked clings on to P5. But Simbarox is being given a lot more pressure than he's going to want from Spicer. He's going to want to take that fight to that top 6 group. And the likelihood is, as he closes into 1.3 seconds, he's going to have DRS on either this lap or the next lap. That's going to have to be something that we wait and see. And we're going to continue on. Is it DRS on this lap? Not quite. 1.1 seconds, 1.0 seconds. The DRS detection point has been passed. And Simbarox was just 300ths off. Daddlepad making his move on Vale. It's going to be 3 wide into turn 1. Not quite. As Daddlepad just edges out that lead. Vale gets past Gully. And P2 is the Hasses for the time being. But he's going to want to switch that. P1 is back in his favour. Let me switch. There we go. Let me switch to the off-board camera. Epic Vale retakes P1. Daddlepad was making his move. And he made his move up into P2. I'd say that was a success for the Aston Martin. Because now he's not at danger of falling off from the rear of the group. He's now in the thick of things. And I think he won't be fighting Vale too much for this lead just as of yet. Because the conserving that he's done, he's not going to want to undo any of that progress. But he will feel the pressure now from the McLaren of Schumacher, who has made it within DRS range of this lead group. 10 seconds, I remember. I won't stop reminding you of that until the checkered flag, because I genuinely think that at this point, Schumacher is going to win on track, but not off track. Daddlepad taking the lead of this race from Vale. Gully looking to the inside of turn 1, just backing out of the move. But his compromised line has allowed Schumacher to get even closer. And this could be Schumacher back into the battle for this race. Not quite so. He stays in P4. But the fight forward has been something to behold from Schumacher. He went on the alternative strategy. The mediums became his second run tyre. And these drivers, they've got 9 circuits, 9 full circuits of the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache to go. They've got 4 drivers to contend with, 5 if Simbarox can continue his good progress, because he's now caught up to the back of Owen. Spicer has clung onto the rear wing of that Ferrari.
So he's not falling off. All the drivers are close together now. It's from P5 to P11. DRS is still available for them all. And Owen's going to want to switch for the lead of this battle. Vazquez has been nowhere on those mediums, but Schumacher is fighting forward. Gully has been passed. Epic Vale is next on his checklist, but Vale will have Daddlepad in mind when he defends or attacks. And he's going to do neither of those things. But you can see that grip advantage that Schumacher has. The ability to just do that huge send into Desida de Lago that didn't lose him any time magically. And now he's just going to want to fight. This is his fight. And he knows he needs to make it quick because 10 seconds in this league, in this division, is incredibly hard to build. And he will find it incredibly hard to build. That is, if he can get past Vale in the first place. That's the objective, at least, for the time being. Owen and Simbarox, 3 seconds off this top group. But something is bound to happen in the next few laps. Something unexpected. And this could be that. Schumacher gets past a flashing Haas. He's up into P2. Through turn 1. Epic Vale doesn't offer him much of a fight. And this could be Schumacher taking the lead of this race. He's looked racy so far. And Daddlepad, he's just managing himself. His hard tyres are only 2 laps older than Schumacher's. So this is where tyre wear starts to come into play. He's got about 3 more laps, 4 more laps maybe, Schumacher, of operating window. Considering how hard he's been pushing, they can go to lap 16 as has been demonstrated this race. But with the way that he has pushed to catch up to this lead group, that seems an unrealistic expectation. But he's going to have to do something along those lines, something along the lines of 17 laps. So conserving will be key for those medium tyres, more than those hard compound tyre runners. And as they head onto the main straight for the 30th time in this race, they're going to cross the line, and Daddlepad is going to lead once again. Schumacher, is he closing by enough? He's closing by a lot. It is enough. He's to the inside of turn 1, and he takes the lead. Daddlepad, how does he play this? He knows he's got 10 seconds worth of penalties and some older mediums. Would it be sensible to fight him hard? Maybe not at this point, but nobody likes a win if it's not on track. Daddlepad tucks in behind Schumacher. He probably had the pace there, but he just deactivated that DRS or lifted or something that meant that he stayed behind, because the management, the staying behind, is important if you want to go for something like a strategy of waiting behind. Epic Vale was ghosted for some reason. I'm not sure why he was ghosted, but there we go. Brutal and Spicer side by side. Spicer to the inside, just blocking Brutal out. And P7 continues to be his. Schumacher and Daddlepad fighting again for the lead of the race. Daddlepad clinging onto it again because he passed Schumacher with the DRS heading into turn 1. Schumacher's going to get back past. Daddlepad isn't going to fight this. It's just sensible to be boring. As much as I'd love him to send it, it is sensible to be boring. And that's exactly what he's going to try and do. They're pretty much matching each other through the first few sectors. This top group are all matching each other through the first sector. There's a yellow flag out for Fern, but it doesn't look like it's too fatal. Bobbitts gets past Owen, and Bobbitts gets past Vazquez as well, who's really fallen off this race. From somebody who looked like he was in the battle for the lead to somebody who looks like he's just going to have to cling on to points. It's not been his stint on those hard compound tyres, and he'll be waiting for a safety car so he can demonstrate that raw pace that he has. But time is ticking. I think this is the last lap of the race where a safety car would come out. And they've actually done quite well to avoid a penalty or to avoid a safety car. Looking to the outside is Vale. I'm actually surprised we didn't get a safety car as Daddlepad sends it around the outside. Could be a defensive manoeuvre on Vale, could be just to remind Schumacher that he's there. But I'm surprised we didn't get a safety car for that contact between Lucas and Blunty, because it was quite a hefty shunt. That wasn't such a hefty shunt, but it could have implications for Vale, and it could have implications for Gully as well, as Vale just hit Daddlepad. Gully looking for the switchback, but no such luck. He's just jumping the gun a little bit. He needs to be a little bit more managed and a little bit more gentle with his throttle inputs. And Gully will be in an incredible position, because there is mistakes in this Haas driver. There is mistakes in the McLaren. That's why, and I'll say it again, he's got a 10-second time penalty. That's why the mistakes are being forced. Because these drivers know that they can stay ahead. Daddlepad, he's barely put a foot wrong all race. And so he deserves to take that lead of the race back. Simba rocks as well. This could be a big move. This is a move he needs to make now or never. Spicer squeezes him out onto the curbing. DRS will be available for both of the drivers. Bobbitt's trying to get involved in the battle as well, but Simba rocks is up into P6 with not much to bridge to Brutal, whose pace has come from absolutely nowhere. He's up into P5 now. And he's only behind this top four, who, barring Schumacher, have been up there since the start of the race. Schumacher dropped back because of the fact that he was on the hard compound tyre, but as the mediums dropped back, he was able to just take that advantage, just take that pace through. Is that no end plate for Daddlepad? Correct me if I'm seeing this wrong, but if you look on his right front wing, there is no end plate. So whereas he might be faster down the straights with that, the corners, he is going to struggle a little bit, and Schumacher looks to take the lead of the race back. Vale looks to squeeze through on Daddlepad as well to the outside line. Contact between the two drivers as Vale just has a little wobble on the curbing, but he's up into P2. Daddlepad looking to fight back, but unable to. And this is the point in the race, with 2 laps to go, that you start to lose hope if you're Schumacher, because he's got a 10-second time penalty. There's yellow flags out. Not sure why, because everybody seems to be going, it could be BRT Owen who's having problems. But 10 seconds in 2 laps will be very, very difficult for him to bridge, especially considering that all these drivers now are matching. He, Epic Vale and Alpha Gully got identical first sector times. And heading on to Sector 2, we're going to have a look. He is the quickest through Sector 2, but it's marginal. It's not 10 seconds worth. It's only, well, if you're comparing it to Vale, it's only 3 tenths. And although he'll want to hear that number 10, he won't want to hear it in that column. These drivers, as they head round to the penultimate race, the penultimate lap of this race, are going to be ready for that fight. Owen is going to retire. He's going to become the 4th retirement of this race. But these drivers are taking their time. They have 1 more lap. They have 2 more DRS zones. Well, 2.5 if you count that final straight that in Tier 3 somebody used to win yesterday. And this is much closer. There's more drivers involved in this. So, actually, I will count it. There's 3 DRS zones to go. There is how many corners? 20 corners, now 19 as they head through Bico de Pato. And now the final braking zone for the penultimate time. Schumacher gets a good lead off of it. Bale, he'll want this win on track, but he'll know that he doesn't need it that much. And he's just going to look to stay behind. Schumacher allows, though, Bale to know he has a chance of winning this race on track. And he's to the inside. It's the lead for Epic Vale. Daddlepad on the exit. He needs to get past Schumacher now. He needs to get past. Schumacher defends the inside. Now switches to the middle. He's going to go down the inside of Vale. The McLaren is continuing to fight for the lead of this race. And he takes it. There was a little bit of wheel banging. as he's through. And Daddlepad fights his way through as well. The Aston Martin is up into P2. It's P1 provisionally. Vale is going to try to find any sort of gap. Is it around the outside? No, it's not. Is it to the inside of the next corner? No, it's not. Is it here? He's going to make it here. Almost. Almost. As Daddlepad shuts the door at the final moments. But Schumacher is going to lead on this final lap. Daddlepad is going to stay behind. DRS is going to be available for 3 of these drivers. And it's the 3 in contention for the race victory. Daddlepad just gets the exit over Vale. Gully also gets the exit over Vale. And it's going to be Daddlepad taking the lead and the victory. Gully in second, Vale in third. Schumacher dropping down the order to 8th as Spicer clings on to 4th. Simba in 5th. Vazquez in 6th. Brutal in 7th. Flo in 8th. Schumacher in 9th. In the end, after winning on track. And Boberts taking the final points position. But Daddlepad managed that perfectly. Just putting the power down at the right time around the final corner. And it's victory to Aston Martin. And it's victory to Daddlepad. His first of the season. And that will be a relief. Because 2 podiums are followed by a victory. He will take the championship lead after round 4. And that was an incredible race. There was lots of tension. It was building up all the way through. But Daddlepad managed it perfectly. Barely put a foot wrong all race. Alpha Gully just managing to take P2 off of Vale because of a slight wobble around that final corner. And he would have known that there was going to be a slight wobble. There was multiple slight wobbles throughout the 36 laps. And it was just keeping on the track, keeping in a straight line and making sure that you got the power down well enough to get through. And indeed he did. So victory, very much deserved for the Aston Martin driver, for Daddlepad. Alpha Gully taking P2, Epic Vale in P3. Spicer in 4th, Simba Rocks taking 5th. Vazquez disappointingly dropping to 6th, just didn't have the pace on those hard compound tyres to really compete. But that was an incredible race. And I hope you've enjoyed that as much as I have. I'm just going to look to see if I can get any of those drivers in the lead in for an interview. But to those 13 of you who are remaining in the chat, what do you rate that race out of 10? Our action for this season is certainly not over. It's only just begun. We're a third of the way through the season. We've got Australia done, Austria done, Belgium done, and Brazil. Next week, we're going to be heading to Qatar, and most likely you're going to get your regular commentators back. But I've been Cockhouse. This has been Tier 2 of WOR in console. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. And, well, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. But for now, goodbye.